Speaking of masks, Eyes Wide Shut. There's more I want to discuss about that film with you.
We,
Last time we talked about it, you said something very fascinating. You said, "Don't watch that movie again until after you're married." What does that mean?
it's a film look at the the dangers of silence between a couple, in this case, a husband and a wife, which, at least personally, and I've known people, including my own uh, grandfather, who some never married, but they may as well have been. You know what I mean? So I'll speak to that as well. But to just be realistic, most boyfriend and girlfriends are not that dedicated to each other. There's always that thought, is there somebody better? I've heard that from people, which sickens me. Is there somebody better? And some of them, so, most people just say that, they just say that. But some people really do. They go, oh, there's somebody better. And they go to that person, and I'm just like, wow, it could not be me. uh, um, but where I'm going with this is, at its grassroots, this is a story about a man who gets disconnected from his wife. And I'll tell you this: communication is absolutely key to peace. It is. And I'll go, a
Yeah,
lot of people will make these big, broad,
miscommunication is a true monster.
right? It is. And, um, but to get to, there's a great quote from a writer. He says, you don't want to show the horrors of war in a big battle shot. You want to show it in that toy that's a little crisped on the road. You know what I mean? And so I'm going to get to why communication, this little thing, is exactly why it's so important. If you don't communicate in a marriage, it almost always divorces. You know what I mean? And so, that's the smallest little bit I can get of just a one-on-one communication. Vice versa, you don't a nation doesn't communicate with a nation, they're going to have problems. Um, so that being said, they lost communication, and what does he immediately do after that?
He tries to go find a prostitute.
Right. And again, what I love is that almost every gosh damn film about marriage at that time, it was always like, the Die Hard sequel joke. Oh, they got divorced. You know what I mean? Or they got back together in the first film. Oh,
Yeah,
divorced
Mrs.
again.
Doubtfire.
Yes. God bless that film, man. But fuck. Yeah, poor Robbie's always having to go through that. Um, but yeah, at the time, especially in those times, everything was divorce, divorce, divorce. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Cheat, cheat, cheat. Literally every romance film was something about a girl or a guy cheating on their bad partner. Just fucking break up with them. Just break up with them. We're those things get into people's minds, and it teaches people to do this inherently. This is what they were giving to the American people. Kubrick was. He was telling people, fight for your relationships, because this is the point. Good people inherently have that. He was beautifully showing conscience. I'm pretty sure he died atheist, but he was starting to show some really big beliefs, at least in his writing and work at the end. But there is an inherent compass in everybody. I believe it. Unless again, psychology suggests there are people who can lose that through, not that it's because there are actually psychopaths who are completely fine citizens of. It just simply implies usually they don't have connection to their emotions.
You're
They don't have,
desensitized.
right. But unless you're a psychopath, and again, I'm prefacing that's not a negative thing. It's just a literal term. You know, unless you have that compass, right? Um, and what it's showing, and I've not seen a film show the compass this well. He is actively not wanting to do what he does, and that's something
That's
like
yeah.
Yeah, that's it. It doesn't. It's not just about cheating, you know. Like that is a great show of just temptation in general, and it's something in all of us. Everybody loves the moment you vocalize, like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'd never do that problem. I'd never do that sin." That's when it starts coming at you, man. You got to be vigilant, brother. But
Yeah.
that
You
film
know,
was. Oh,
you
sorry.
no, I don't want to cut you off.
Oh, well then hold that thought. Um, just briefly, it's a beautiful film about you don't have to commit to your choice, you know? And furthermore, it can just be this thing you almost did, or you can go all the way. And going all the way would have probably meant they come after him and he cheats. You know, all the negative things. The biggest point is you can get close, right? Everybody gets close to that sin they hate to do because everybody does, and that's something people really need to understand. You know, everybody does. uh is we can get so close to that problem, but what matters is what we actually do. We're never beyond that grace, you know what I mean? And you know, this isn't me saying go sin. What the film is actually saying, and what I'm saying is try your fucking hardest not to, right? And that's what makes a good society. You know, everybody has those temptations, but the point is, this is a obviously good guy who just is struggling with the destruction that lack of communication gives. You know, they just weren't talking to each other, and for all we know, you know, like if we delved into her character, you might find she was going down the same path. Maybe she was, maybe she wasn't. And I love that he kind of paints that little picture there through the different things, and you know the paranoia that Cruz has of like, oh, she's probably with those sailors right now. You know, all of those things play into this moral compass that keeps guiding him through the city. And you'll notice, especially with the projector and the track shot, we are shown him going through a compass. You know, let's say this is the metaphorical north, right? Then he goes east towards the prostitute, or west, sorry. Um, then you know maybe he goes south towards the piano player, and you know then east towards the cult. And it really is a beautiful show of a compass, and I've never seen anybody have that interpretation. But yeah, ultimately it's a show of this is what you could be doing, and this is probably where it will lead you. Because the point is, it starts at prostitution, then you start wanting more. It's a beautiful show of the good, the bad, and the ugly. To just put a little Sergio in there, but it is, you have the good guy. He's good. He is a good guy. You know, he really tries to be, as most people do. You know, you got to give people grace. Like most people try to be a good person, even if they're in the middle of something bad. Then you have, and I'm sorry, the bad situation, which is if he would have cheated. And then you have the ugliest situation, which is if he would have done that. And that's why, you know, I hate to see it, but it's a great point. Is that's why they show the younger woman or the younger girl, probably a girl, not a woman, try to seduce him, right? And actively show people actually doing it. Like I believe it's the older guy in the room with her. It's, you know, it suggests they probably did it. You know what I mean? But the point is, you literally are shown the pipeline, like unironically, perfectly shows the pipeline. You go from loving your wife and, you know, having relations with your wife. Then it shows you if you went with this prostitute, you might go to this young girl. And if you go to this young girl, you might go to the island.
The island.
I mean, that is my interpretation, and I think it's sound. You know, it might not be what he intended, but let's be honest, you do 100 takes every single damn scene, you intended what was shown, right? So again,
Always.
that's
Often.
the
Often.
pipeline. That is the pipeline, you know, and you could do it with any sin. You could do it with murder. You murder this person, you're probably going to keep doing it. That's why serial killers exist. You know what I mean? Like sin always begets sin, and that's why I always say it proves itself pointless. You will never find something good out of an evil situation that you do. Other people might find good out of your evil. Like for example, Cruz literally takes that cult situation and goes, "Yeah, I should just be with my wife." He found good out of it. You know, even this completely disgusting thing. And what I also love is he beautifully portrays the nudity as a sin, as something evil, as opposed to, I don't know, some gooners getting off at the scene. Like I most people I've ever talked to have never been like, yeah, I felt erotic during the scene. You know what I mean? Like, no, everybody's like, oh, this is disgusting. I don't feel good seeing this. You know,
That whole movie is it evokes that feeling.
yeah, like this nerve.
Like,
Ooh, yeah, yeah,
yeah, no, because it's what you said about the devil, the trickery. That movie shows you that darkness of sin, that terrible feeling of it.
right.
And the beauty of it is just it's not there. It gets peeled away layer by layer. There's a few things I wanted to talk about with everything you mentioned. One of the things you said Kubrick in this film is saying fight for your relationships. And I think that is a very good interpretation because something interesting about the Muslim tradition is one of the worst things the devil does, and he takes pride in as a sin, is separating a man and a woman.
Mm.
And so fighting for your relationships, that's great.